Hopefully most of you know by now that Insomniac has announced that they're going to be present at San Diego Comic-Con this year on July 20th. Not only are they going to be present, but they're going to be present in Hall H, the biggest hall of Comic-Con where all of the ginormous panels are usually held. We can only assume that this panel is going to have tons of new news. It's an hour long and it's titled Symbiotic Relationships. And obviously all the big players are going to be there. Yuri Lowenthal as Peter, Najee Jeter as Miles, and Laura Bailey as Mary Jane, the whole cast and crew, and then obviously the director, creative director, everything like that. But in honor of that panel being called Symbiotic Relationships, where we can only assume we're going to get more info on Venom and the symbiote itself, I want to finally go in depth as to who I think Venom might be in this game. I'm going to be going over each and every character that I think actually could become Venom in this game and how likely I think that actually will happen. Jumping right in, I want to talk about Harry. Harry is probably the most popular theorized character to be bonding with the symbiote and become Venom. And you know, I think that's rightfully so, especially given the end of Spider-Man PS4 and the end of Spider-Man Miles Morales. We see Harry covered in the symbiote, and from our understanding, Norman's trying to use the symbiote to save Harry's life. So it would stand to reason that since the symbiote has already been bonded to Harry in some sort of way, that it would want to rebond with Harry after Peter's done with it. And of course, for those of you who are listening who like to prove people wrong, I'm sure you're sitting there saying, well actually, Mr. Cubson, they confirmed at Summer Games Fest that Venom is not going to be anything that we have seen before in the movies or comics. Yeah, man, you'd be right. You'd be right, they did say that. But if you want to argue semantics, one could say that all he said was something that we haven't seen in the movies or comics. He did not specifically say TV shows. And in case you didn't know, the only time Harry has ever been Venom was in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon. But that's not even to say that I agree with this one or even think that it's the most likely option. And plus, if they did go with Harry, all three Spider-Man games would focus on the main villain being the friend of the hero and then turning to evil. Which, depending on who you are, you could care about that, you could find it repetitive, you could not. I don't know. That's up to you to decide. But here's where all of the Harry being Venom evidence falls flat for me. We all know that what makes a good Venom antagonist story to Spider-Man is that both the host of the symbiote and Venom itself hate Spider-Man and hate Peter Parker. And with that being said, I don't think they've done a good job or even at all set up Harry hating Peter in any way. We can assume that Venom is going to eventually hate Peter because he's going to reject the symbiote, but we have no idea what the basis of Harry hating Peter would be. I can't even begin to imagine it. Like maybe Norman dies and then he finds out that Peter had something to do with it potentially, but that's something we've seen before in like the Raimi movies. And also going back to the semantics argument, I don't actually think that Brian Intihar only meant movies and comics. I'm pretty sure he meant every Spider-Man Venom story we've seen before. This is going to be completely original. So with that being said, even with Harry only having been Venom in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon, that would therefore cut that idea out. So I actually think that leaves Harry as the least likely option in my opinion for being Venom in this game. Next up I have Craven, and I think this could work for a multitude of ways as well, including some nods to potentially Craven's Last Hunt. And I know I've talked about this in a previous video, and I also know that in Craven's Last Hunt, Craven doesn't wear the symbiote suit, he just wears the cloth black and white suit. But I'm jumping a little bit ahead of myself here. The main reason I think Craven will end up being Venom potentially is because of the dynamic between Spider-Man and Craven's desire to find an equal or find someone better than him, or find him a challenge, I guess I should say. What we know about Craven so far is that he views himself as the best. He doesn't think he can be taken down by anyone, and so he wants someone to try. He wants someone that can challenge him. So imagine in the game, as Peter has the symbiote, Peter just absolutely demoralized this man. I'm talking destroyed his entire essence for the hunt. I'm talking destroyed his face, made it look like you're 3 layers deep grandma's fucking lasagna. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying anymore.
Bro, what are you talking about?
After a beating like that, Craven is gonna want to get back up to his original strength somehow. He needs to feel whole again, essentially. Going from feeling like you're the best to the bottom of the barrel is not gonna be a great feeling. And And so with Peter inevitably going to get rid of the symbiote, I would believe that Craven would want to get his hands on it to enhance his powers, his moveset, his skill set in any way that he can to therefore take on Peter again. But again, there's some of you out there that want to prove people wrong, and you're probably sitting there saying, but Cubson, at the reveal trailer for this game, Craven is seen talking separately from Venom, so obviously they can't be the same person. Yet again, you're correct. You stupid bitch. But that can easily be explained as some sort of editing trick to make us think one thing when the other thing is actually what is happening, if that makes any sense. Like they want us to believe that Venom is a separate person from Craven rather than them being the same person. Editing tricks like that are used in trailers all the time to try to misdirect an audience. And also back to the original point of Craven's last hunt and a potential nod to that storyline, maybe Craven actually beats Peter's ass while he's wearing the symbiote and digs a grave for him right next to Aunt May and Uncle Ben and stands over that grave wearing the symbiote. Tell me that shot wouldn't go hard. But here is what stops me from fully thinking that Craven will be Venom. We can obviously assume that after Peter gets rid of the symbiote, whatever host it chooses will therefore know that Peter is Spider-Man. And me personally, I think that having some sort of big reveal like that can't just be something that is swept under the rug. And I feel like for a character like Craven, I don't think he's going to stick around for the long haul. I very much think that he would be a sort of just part of this game, maybe in like a side mission of Spider-Man 3, the potential Spider-Man 3 that we might get in the future. So I think it would be a huge missed opportunity for Craven to find out who one of the two Spider-Men are and to most likely just be killed off by the end of the game. All of the tension that would be set up by Craven finding out his identity would just fizzle out. And of course, I could be wrong. Maybe Craven does end up being Venom, finds out, and Craven sticks around for the long haul with the third game. But again, I personally don't think that that is likely. But also, I could see Craven not even wanting the symbiote at all. I very much see Craven as somebody who wants to be the peak human that he can be, as peak as he can be, while still being him. I could see him viewing something external enhancing him, like the symbiote, as sort of cheating in a way. After all, he's in it for the thrill of the hunt, and the symbiote might make that thrill a little bit too easy. So I think Craven is more likely to be Venom than Harry, but even then, I don't think he's the most likely option. Now, this brings me to another heavily theorized one, and that is Norman Osborn. And I know originally in a past video, I said that I think I agree with the idea that Craven is going to be Venom over Norman. But after I've thought about it a little bit more, I think I'm more leaning towards Norman potentially being Venom. Something I forgot to mention when I talked about Harry, I think that no matter what, Harry's coming out of this game dead. I don't think Harry is going to survive this game. As for how Harry dies, that's up in the air. But for this purpose, I'm going to say it has something to do with Peter, but not directly. Like Peter is trying to save Harry the best that he possibly can, but Norman comes along and thinks that he's doing it the wrong way, or he could have done it a better way, or Spider-Man didn't do enough, essentially. And we can already see in the post-credit scene for Spider-Man Miles Morales, damn, y'all are really listening to this dumb motherfucker? It was at the end of Spider-Man PS4, dumbass. When Norman walks up to the tank that Harry's in, the symbiote already seems to be responding to Norman pretty positively. When Norman puts his hand up on the tank, the symbiote reaches out for him. And you could just say the symbiote is just looking for a way out because it doesn't enjoy Harry as a host, which I do think is a viable option, but it definitely could be more as well. So with Harry dying and Spider-Man having something to do with it, at least in Norman's eyes, and Peter gets rid of the symbiote finds its way to Norman somehow, and he is out for revenge. And this perfectly lines up with what I was talking about earlier, where a great Venom antagonist story to Spider-Man is when the host and the symbiote hate Peter Parker and Spider-Man equally. And if Norman finds out that Peter is Spider-Man after seeing what Spider-Man supposedly did to not help his son, or whatever he thinks, that would be enough to set Norman over the edge. And as for Norman finding out Peter's secret identity, inevitably Miles and Peter win the day and beat Venom and take it off of Norman. Norman's not quite done. The symbiote is destroyed somehow, and so Norman has no sort of enhancement in order to challenge Peter and Spider-Man again. So what does he do? Tries to find some other way to enhance himself to become a challenge to Spider-Man. And eventually that ends with him becoming Green Goblin and we fight him in the third game again. I know I should have mentioned the Harry dying part earlier. That would have played well with what I said about Craven as well, because maybe Norman still finds that Spider-Man had something to do with it, but he never gets access to the symbiote because Craven is Venom, and then he still goes on this quest to find a way to enhance himself, and then we end up fighting him as Green Goblin in the third game still anyway. But all of my points still stand. Or who knows, I'm completely wrong and there's some other fourth person that we have no idea who it is, and they end up being Venom, and it's just this crazy off the walls kind of story that none of us ever saw coming, which would be crazy. But if you have any ideas or theories as to who you think Venom is, let me know down in the comments. I would love to discuss and hear your thoughts in as much detail as you are willing to give. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like. Or forget to leave a like. I mean, it's really up to you. But I hope you have a wonderful day, and I guess that's it.